If you want to play I was there first with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, the Jews win. They were there first. I'm talking biblical time here. But the problem was that they kept revolting against whoever happened to be taking them over that day. They got conquered a lot. They got conquered by the Assyrians, by the Babylonians, by the Greek, by the Persians. And there's something ironic here. They actually didn't revolt against the Persians because apparently they were nice to them back then. And finally the Romans. They revolted against the Romans, but the Romans were like, you guys suck, you need to leave. We don't want you revolting against us. So most Jews ended up settling in Europe, Russia, and eventually America. Zionism basically means wanting to go back to Zion, which is another name for Israel. Now, the reason Zionism became a thing around the turn of the 20th century was that everybody was pretty much being a huge dick to Jews everywhere, pretty much. Anti-Semitism, which is the fancy name Hitler actually gave to Jew-hating because he wanted to sound sophisticated, had a lot of causes, but the most basic of them was that Jews looked different, they had their own language, their own customs, their own religion. And so every time someone wanted to blame somebody for something, they were like, look at that guy. Hey, he's not me or one of us, and he looks funny, so let's put this on him. It didn't help that people could blame the death of Christ on Jews, which is kind of like, you know, blaming every single Brazilian for the fact that their football team sucked at the World Cup. So in this general spirit of dickheadery toward Jews, they were banned from doing pretty much any kind of work. Importantly, in the Middle Ages, the church had decided that Christians were too good for what they called usury, which is a pejorative term for the economically and financially necessary practice of charging interest on loans. And since you need loans to have an economy, they were like, hey Jews, you guys are going to hell anyway, so why don't you come and do our usury for us? So not only were these funny-looking, Christ-killing Jews drinking the blood of children or whatever, they were also richer than you through the eternal damnation warranting practice of charging interest. So around the 20th century, the Jews were like, fuck you guys, we're going home. They started buying up land in what, at the time, was a land of mostly Arab Muslims. And it was mostly Arab Muslims because, well, Arab Muslims had taken over the land in the 10th century. When Jews bought up land from farm owners that had peasants working for them, they pissed off the peasants because on the land that they used to subsist on, there was now a bunch of foreign Jewish settlers. Also, Arab nationalism was kind of a thing back then, so you know, that didn't help the spirit of happy cooperation any. By 1914, there were almost 60,000 Jews in that area, with 30,000 of them being recent settlers. Now, before the First World War, because the British wanted the Arabs' help in defeating the Ottomans, they promised them their own independent state if they would revolt against the Ottoman rule, which they did. But in 1917, with the Great War at a stalemate in Europe, the British decided to tell the Jews of the world that they supported the creation of a Jewish state so that with their help they could tip the scales of the war in their own favor. Naturally, this made the Jews go, yay, and the Arabs were like, what the fuck, man? After the First World War, people were being even bigger dicks to Jews around the world. In Ukraine, the, you know, cute Ukraine Putin took over a little while ago. In that place alone, 100,000 Jews were killed for no fucking reason. Now, as a result, Jews were like, fuck this, we're going back to Israel at a much higher pace, which naturally led to more tensions between Arabs and Jews. And by that I mean Jews killing Arabs, Arabs killing Jews. Now the British, who were in charge of the region, they figured that more Jewish immigration would be a recipe for disaster. So they placed a quota on how many Jews could come to the region, which made the Jews want the British out of there. So then bam, World War II, shit hits the fan everywhere, Europe is fucked, and a lot of Jews have been killed for no good reason. The Jews wanted the British out of there because British were all like, oh, quota, you can't fucking move here. And so they resorted to terrorism. Yes, terrorism. After the Jewish terrorists blew up the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, the British were like, fuck this, guys. We are out of here. This region sucks. If we help these guys, those guys blow us up. If we help those guys, these guys blow us up. It's just a lot of blowing up, and we don't want to have anything to do with it. Hey, United Nations, we just created you to deal with international problems. Why don't you go ahead and fix this? So the UN appointed a committee made up of nations that had nothing to do with the region. Nobody from the region was on that committee, which they apparently thought was a good idea back then. This committee came up with a plan to divide the territory into 2 states and to leave Jerusalem neutral. And the Jews were like, hooray! And the Arabs were like, dude, it says in the UN goddamn charter over here that you're supposed to look at, let's see here, people who are already there before you divide up a country or draw boundaries. And you know, if you look at here, most people are Arabs. It's us. It's kind of 2 to 1. If you held an election, 67% would say the government should be Palestinians. 33% would say Arabs. I mean, Jews. So what the fuck, man? Shit. This is bullshit. And the United Nations was pretty much like the Holocaust. Do you feel guilty about Jews? Shit, I feel guilty about Jews. Holocaust. Yeah, the Holocaust. We're kind of dicks to Jews.
Fucking Holocaust. Damn Holocaust, man.
I don't know.
This fucked up.
I feel guilty. It says the Holocaust. You guys have got nothing. If you wouldn't mind just going ahead and giving up most of the land to the Jews over there, thank you. That would be awesome. So, of course, the Arabs were like, what the fuck? Come on, why should we pay the price for this? And they started a war. So it was this war that made Gaza a strip, because you see here, these are the lines that the UN had proposed, and these are the boundaries after the war. And right there is the Gaza Strip. The Palestinians lost the war. Did I mention that? Now, during that war, 700,000 to 750,000 Arabs fled or were expelled from their homes in Palestine if they happened to be in territory that Israel had taken over. Now, Israel has been a dick about this issue ever since then, and 70 years later, a lot of the Palestinians still live in these refugee camps. Now, Arabs weren't the only victims here. 850,000 Jews were displaced from their homes if they happened to be in Arab countries. They were expelled or they fled. What we have talked about so far is pretty much the basic makeup of the conflict. Arabs are like, we were here first. The Jews are like, nah, we were here firster. Arabs are like, dude, give us back our land. Jews are like, we're not going anywhere. Get over it. So, yeah. If you want to know who the fuck Arafat is, or what the hell Hamas is, or the 6-Day War, what the fuck is that about, stick around and I will explain. Yeah, thanks again. Subscribe and comment and like and shit. Yay, subscribe and comment and shit. Woo! Subscribe and comment and shit. Woo! Subscribe and comment and shit. Yay!